That says it's about 4 till. We're going to call the meeting to order, the regular meeting, Port of Allyn Commissioners. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll get through a few business items, and we're going to let you guys do your presentation. So item number 2 are the consent agenda items. Approve regular meeting minutes of June 4th.
So moved.
Hold on, why is it June 4th?
Oh, yeah, it's true. It should be April.
March 4th.
Adding 0. Or is that
Or
on the
April.
agenda?
It says March 4th.
2018. You know what it is? That's when
Cut and
the
paste.
template was created.
So
Okay.
I can do a correct.
So where are the minutes? We do have the minutes
Yeah,
here.
they're in there.
So they're
They're
in
in
the
your-
packet? Those
In
are
your
it?
meeting packet.
Okay.
So this one says March 4th, and the one I gave her said December
3rd.
3rd.
So the date is incorrect, but everything else is correct?
Yes.
So with corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of,
April 4th.
April 4th.
thank you.
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we're not
And
gonna.
it was April 1st.
April 1st. Okay.
That's
Oh, that's
why
right,
it's
it
April,
was.
Stacy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
April
right, 'cause we had
1st.
that class. Action items A, B, and C, payment of general fund vouchers, payment of payroll vouchers, payment of water fund vouchers.
I make a motion to approve action items A, B, and C.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. So before commissioner reports, we're gonna get our lobbyist to give us a presentation on this year's session, so please. Thank you.
Just tell me when you wanted to move.
Okay. Yeah, so you can go ahead and switch it to the first slide. So as a reminder, we're with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs, and Brianna Murray. I have with me Trevor Justin and Josh Weiss. And we just completed a very long session lobbying on your behalf. This was the first legislative session where we worked together, and I just want to start by saying thank you. That really being a successful session requires a partnership between you all as well as a lot of hard work on our part. And we found the partnership with you all to be very successful. Commissioner Scott, you made multiple trips to Olympia as well as Executive Director Coppola, and we are very pleased to have some good news to share with you today. And I don't want to underestimate the partnership also with your legislative delegation, and we'll go into more detail about that. But you guys have an excellent delegation and some great champions there that have done a lot of hard work on your behalf. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you, and that we look forward to continuing to work with you. And I'm going to turn it over to Trevor to go through the nitty-gritty details of everything that happened this session. So I'm going to take a seat and leave it to you.
Great, yeah.
Thank you.
No, thanks again for having us. Thanks again for bumping us to the beginning of the agenda. I also want to say thank you. It was a pleasure working for you guys and with you guys this past legislative session. Let's hop into the good news first. You want to go to the third slide, Larry? This one, session success.
You do want to get quick through it.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Session success. So let's get to the good news first, shall we? Happy to report, as the legislature adjourned on April 28th, the final capital budget includes $378,000 for restoration of the Oyster House, which is great news. And feel free to stop me, ask me questions anytime you guys like. But really pleased with that funding. That funding comes from two sources. the first source, a $218,000 appropriation from the local and community projects section of the capital budget, and then the other $160,000 was the grant to the North Bay Historical Society for restoration of the Oyster House. Really pleased to see both of those items high water marks. So most of you are familiar, but if you're not, in a typical session, a governor releases his proposed budget before session in December, and then fast forward to March, the House will release their budget proposals, operating, transportation, and capital, followed by this year the Senate also releases their budget proposals. And this year, the House included the $218,000 appropriation for the local community project section, however, did not cover the amount for the North Bay Historical Society grant. So the House, all that was included in the House proposal was the $218,000. A couple days later, the Senate came out with their budget. The Senate did not include the $218,000, but they did include the $160,000 for the grant to North Bay. So, end up in the final capital budget, we got the high water mark of both proposals, right? We got the most funding allocated in each proposal, which is, it's not always common, but we were very pleased to see that. And obviously, I have to acknowledge Representative Griffey. I know he said he was going to try and stop by. It looks like he wasn't able to make it tonight, but he's just a huge champion for you guys and for the community, as is Senator Sheldon and Representative McEwen. But Representative Griffey was really the one pushing this effort, and he was just a really big champion, and he was great to work with all session. So just want to say that.
And I'll just do a quick shout out for Trevor. When we saw the two budget proposals come out and how they were different, Representative Griffey and Trevor worked together to make sure that there was good communication going into capital budget leadership, saying we don't want one or the other, we want both. And I think that was very effective advocacy and resulted in the final budget that included both appropriations.
You hit the next slide, Larry. So let's think to how we got here.
I don't know what the problem is here, but resume slideshow, maybe that's it.
You want me to wait? There we go. So let's hop back in a little bit, going a little bit out of order here, but let's get in the time machine, hop back to November, kind of see how things played out. So I think we started working with you all in the fall, and obviously one of the first priorities was to get some concrete cost estimates for how much the project would cost, right? I know there was some loose estimates out there, and there was some ideas, but we wanted to get a firm cost estimate so we could kind of lay the groundwork and know what we need to build towards. So in November, worked with you all and Larry with Art Anderson Associates, and they gave us that cost estimate. I believe it was on November 20th. And that was the $712,260, and we'll get to that on the next slide, but that was the cost estimate for the full project. So we knew how much to restore the building, tear out the old boat ramp, build a new pier, move the building back over the water, and get the project fully complete. So that was the full cost associated with the project. Obviously, the North Bay Historical Society is one of our big partners, and they were prioritized on the Heritage Capital Projects grant list. It's interesting there, it's kind of a caveat, right? There was 36 projects that made that list. However, the legislature is the one who determines how much funding goes towards that list. So it was a great first step to be allocated on that list. However, the legislature makes the final call on how many projects are funded. And obviously, as we saw, the $160,000 grant was funded to that. So that was good to see. There was a little bit of discrepancy early on the grant funding and how that would relate to additional legislative funding. Obviously, the $160,000 isn't going to get us all the way to the $712,000 that it's going to cost to get the building back over the water and fully restored. So we met with the Washington State Historical Society before session in December to kind of see how a grant would gel with the legislative appropriation. And initial conversations, it wasn't exactly clear. It was we didn't want to forfeit ourselves from the grant that was awarded, but not yet funded. So there was some details to kind of work out on how we could seek a direct appropriation on top of the grant. Come to find out, in the coming weeks, with the grant there's a 2-to-1 match. So if you're awarded a $160,000 grant, that needs to be backed up by various different ways for the $320,000 match. It is the North Bay's responsibility. So once we kind of worked through all those details, we decided we could proceed forward and seek a direct appropriation on top of the grant funding. And then we got into session. And some of these details were unclear to start. So what we decided to do at the beginning of session is fill out a capital budget form for the full amount. Just in case something happened with that grant, we wanted to ask, you can always ask for more, or you can always ask for less, but you can't usually ask for more, right? So we figured we'd start at the high water mark and negotiate ourselves down if we needed to. So filled out a couple of different capital budget forms, which were sponsored by Representative Griffey and Representative Sheldon. He sponsored the form in the Senate. And I think we ended up filling out 2 or 3 different forms until we finally got to the $525,000 direct appropriation with the $160,000 grant. And the way the estimate broke out was the North Bay would kind of take phase 1 and phase 4 of the project with their grant money, and then we would seek the legislative funding for phases 2 and 3, which was the demolition of the boat ramp and some restoration of the building and putting that back over the water. Some of the grant funding was for some of the interior design work and restoration of the floor and stuff like that. So, I don't know, Brianna, is there anything else there that you remember?
Just one nuance is the state appropriation that was received cannot serve as the match to the North Bay Historical Grant, so it's all additive. And that was part of what the confusion was at the beginning of session that really just needed to be sorted out. And we were pleased that we were able to work with Representative Griffey and you all, as well as partners with the Historical Society, to resolve that and get a clear vision on how the 2 pots of money function together.
Thanks for that. In the meantime, with all this going on, we're formulating one-pagers. We're advocating for the project. I know Larry and Commissioner Scott, you guys both came to Olympia. You guys came to Olympia specifically to meet with Senator Sheldon to ask him to sponsor the Senate capital budget forum, which, thanks again for coming down and doing that. I think that went a long way. They run into lobbyists like us every day, right? But it means a lot more when someone from the community comes down. So that was great for you guys to come down. And I know you were there on multiple occasions, and I know, Larry, you were as well. So you guys definitely help us be successful in Olympia. So we got all the funding requests in, and then, budget work is interesting. You kind of make your request in the beginning, and then they kind of go behind closed doors and negotiate. The budget negotiators kind of do their thing and negotiate. Budget proposals were released in late March, so this is all kind of going on January, February. We're advocating and making sure that they're not forgetting about our project, right? And then in late March, I believe it was March 25th, is when the House released their budget proposals, and the Senate released theirs a couple of days after that. And that's when we saw the 2 proposals of the $218,000 in the House, the $160,000 grant covered in the Senate, and obviously we were fortunate enough to combine both of those in the final capital budget. The final capital budget was released just about a day before the legislature adjourned, so it's extremely tough to influence that process that late, right? So you really have to do all your groundwork and all your advocacy in the months leading up, and I think we all did a good job of doing that.
The governor has yet to sign the final capital budget, but
Good
the
caveat.
only authority the governor has is to do full section vetoes, so it's unlikely that a full section would get vetoed, and it's unlikely he would choose to not sign it into law, so we're pretty confident that the funding is fairly certain at this point, will be signed into law and then effective July 1, and then start hearing from the Department of Commerce on how to receive the funds after that July 1st date. And so they'll spend July and August working with you to get under contract.
One more slide, Larry, I believe is. So that's kind of a high-level recap. This was the first year of a 2-year biennium. As you know, the legislature works in kind of 2-year bienniums. So the first year being the odd-numbered year, that's the big budget year, right? That's when they really negotiate that operating budget, that capital budget for our purposes, and then the transportation budget as well. Next year, there will be some opportunities for funding, but not quite as much. This is really where you kind of make your case and get your funding allocated. Total project cost, as we got from Art Anderson Associates back in November, $712,260. So not quite the 378 that we received. So more work to be done. But yeah, 334,260 is that remaining balance. But looking forward to keeping at it, and obviously next steps, I think you guys will make some decisions on how to navigate that going forward. And we're happy to help and be a resource for you guys, and love to continue working with you guys, and really appreciate our time. So
Great.
I think just questions was the last slide. Yeah.
Go ahead,
I was
Scott.
gonna just say, it's nice that you guys thank us, but we need to thank you too. You did a lot of hard work there, so thank you very much. And, maybe there was some skepticism in the beginning, but I think that's gone away, at least for me. So, thanks.
No, absolutely. I just want to say thank you. I know how late nights those are, so thank you very much. All three of you, for you.
Thank you for your hard work, and it was also fortuitous that we met with Bonnie Knight while we were all down
Right.
there. And I want to thank Bonnie for all her hard work for getting the North Bay Historical Society grant, and like you had mentioned about wondering how it was all going to work with all that, she kind of helped too. And
Yeah.
thank you for your time and effort and getting us on board. Greatly appreciate it. You don't know what a relief this is.
No, in all honesty, it was a really fun project to work on. It's it's kind of a small community feel, a good building that I know has a lot of support in the community, and with the Historical Society and all the others. So it's been a pleasure. It really has been. You guys help us be successful. So
That's great. Thank you.
If I could just add one thing, it is fun for us. We enjoy this. It was almost a year ago that Brianna and I came and pitched this idea to you. We'll very much, all of us, look forward to coming out and seeing when it's on the water. It'll be
Yeah.
cool for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have a little
Yeah.
That's a huge start for us.
Well, we'll certainly follow up with Larry on some specific next steps and ideas that we have to continue working together, and just really appreciate the time this evening.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, moving back to the agenda.
Thanks, folks. See ya.
We have commissioner reports. Let's start on my left.
Okay, sure. Of course, did regular port meeting on the 1st. April 4th was the Department of Natural Resource Focus Group meeting that I went to. There's really no new news on that one. April 6th, the Pirates and Pearls Sergeant Oyster House Dinner and Auction. North Bay Historical Society put that on, and we actually made over 3,000, probably 3,700, I think, I'm not sure, but they're still figuring all that. And so it was a better success than what I had thought. It was a lot of work, but we did it. It was great. April 9th, met with Mike Ross, and he donated the drawings and the plans for the Sergeant Oyster House stabilization, and I gave Larry a copy of it. So, we can pass that on, let you look at it. Lots of Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization meetings. As you well know, and which is in there, we've been working on the interlocal agreement. And then also now we're working on the bylaws. So we've had a technical advisory committee meeting. I did that the 11th, the ILA meeting the 12th. 19th was the executive board meeting plus the bylaws, so lots of activity, but this will probably end soon once we get, Kitsap Transit will be the lead agency for the Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization. Because as you know, WashDOT is bowing out of it. April 22nd, North Mason Community Voice, Michelle Britton and Amy Amos of WashDOT spoke about the State Route 3 Freight Corridor, or more affectionately called the Belfair Bypass. And they're in the preliminary stages of getting this done. She gave timelines of the progress. Which one was listed as the completion of the bypass should be in 2025, we hope. Tahuya Forest Cleanup Day, there was about 30 people that showed up, and so they all got fed, and it was a great success. There we go.
Okay, April 1st, I attended the meeting, general meeting, and attended the Pirates and Pearls with my wife. We had a wonderful time. I attended the Belfair bypass meeting, which was a little disappointing how people reacted when somebody was just providing information and they were attacking her. I have been in front of those crowds, and I wish people would just listen and learn. So other than that, and by the way, the dogwood is just kicking my rear end. I apologize. So
I had a pretty slow month. I went to the April 1st meeting, and I planned on coming to the Pirates and Pearls, but got stuck in traffic in Kent and tried to call ahead and say, hey, save me something,
But you bought a ticket, so that
I
was
bought
great.
2 of them, and then I wanted
Big
to,
bowl of coleslaw still
I
in the
wanted
fridge.
to, oh, I bet it's still good.
Is
I
it?
wanted to donate those tickets to somebody, but they were on my desk. So that's it for me. Moving on to security officers report. Hey, Travis.
Hi,
Travis.
Travis Merrill, for Allyn Security. Well, we've had some issues with some stolen fixtures out of our bathrooms. I'm not sure why they need the whole fixture, but we're working on that. Dawn at Maintenance is trying to come up with a way to maybe make them not stealable. So we've been locking the bathrooms a little earlier at night, but I'm not sure that'll solve the issue. They could just be stealing them during the day, and then people aren't able to use the bathrooms. You know, if we're locking them, it's 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We still got people out there now. So we'll come up with a solution there. The broken glass issue ceased for now. Seems to be more traffic, of course, in the evenings. Been kicking a few more people out just because there's been a few people that don't need to be here at night. That's what I'm there for. Other than that, not a whole lot of interesting stuff. Yeah.
I'd be interested in the status of the boats on the dock and tied off from the dock.
On out here,
Yeah.
right now, we don't have that one boat tied. I believe it floated away.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it got recovered or not. So,
They still owe us mooring?
yeah. Yeah, they do.
What's the broken glass from? Bottles?
Somebody
Bottles?
breaking down here and
Oh.
just breaking the glass on the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
Just not being responsible. And we get that every now and then.
Travis, how's the syringe?
I haven't seen any syringe problems in the bathrooms, but Don sees it more because he goes and inspects the trash cans and stuff, and that's where typically they're being found.
I for the last month, I looked a lot at the blue light study,
Mhm.
and Commissioner can tell me, Cooper can tell me, but it seems to be more of a negative than it is a positive. If you put blue lights in a bathroom, yes, you can't see your veins as easily
Okay, I see what you're
But
talking about now. But
it
it's
also-
not, right?
yeah, it also causes people to miss their veins, causes overdoses.
Sure.
And not that I'm an easy person on that thing, but I think it'd be more of a problem for the board if we were to do that. So I have some information in my billfold here, or my folder here, but I just don't think it'd be good for us.
No, I would have to agree with you on that synopsis.
Unless we want to have everybody carry Narcan around here, which I don't think we want to do.
Another solution to some of the smoking problem, because we're having a lot of that going on at night. I'll come down here and there'll be a car parked next to the bathrooms, and they had already left, or one of them's using the bathroom, the other one had used another bathroom, and I'll go to lock the door up, and I can smell it.
Yeah.
It's possible that some kind of smoke detector scenario to make an alarm go off, just to kind of scare them away, just to make them feel uncomfortable, essentially. It would just time out, just to make other people aware that things are going on in there.
Right.
But there's some solutions. I don't know if they're solutions, but maybe preventative maintenance, essentially.
We're gonna put sharps containers in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Because we know what's happening.
sure. Well,
And
they're
it's-
flushing them.
Yeah, that's bad, because I know that Dawn is experiencing bad toilet issues, you know, 2-3 times a month. So,
That's the whole reason for putting them in.
Then if I remember correctly, we'll install them, but the health department will pick them up and refresh them.
that sounds about right.
For free.
Yeah.
And their rate of bill fare for the one you were talking about.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great.
Okay.
I have a little
Thanks, Travis.
update
Yep,
on the
thank you.
scamper.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, okay, so.
Thank you, Travis.
I'm just waiting for
I
that one
just
to
heard
break
from
free.
Jerry Farmer from DNR, and he says, thanks for keeping us in the loop. We do plan on posting the scamper for custody this summer when funding becomes available. If Janine does not comply with our notices, then we will have the vessel removed and disposed of.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yay.
Thanks.
The scamper that's out there is listing pretty hard.
Yeah, I noticed, and I did see, on one of the Facebook pages that a boat was floating in Allyn, and I wondered if it was the one that was tied up
It
to our
was the
dock,
one
yeah.
that was tied up to us.
Yeah.
I believe we tried to call them because it had breaking loose on one rope and was held on by another, but
Yeah, he went and got some kind of new anchor, and it's anchored pretty,
Oh, is it out there
Pretty
still?
secure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's anchored out there now again.
but he's off our dock and he paid in
Oh,
full.
he did pay?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay. Yeah, because we really don't want them back on the dock.
No,
that's
we
good
don't.
news.
Oh, and I wanted to clarify on this one, the March minutes, that was that watermark one.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it just needed one signature?
No, it needed everybody's.
needed everybody's.
Yeah. It was approved.
Okay.
That's the one that had the draft on it.
Yeah, I apologize about the date on the agenda. I was in a hurry when I was doing it and totally messed up.
So executive
usually
director's
do that.
report. Oh,
All right.
we'll let you have this one.
Water system issues. We recently issued water availability letters for 15 lots situated between Wheelwright and Blackwell Streets to Cedarland Homes. I spoke with Joe Cedarland a week or so ago, and he told me they're moving forward. Have 2 sets of house plans being designed now. We'll have 4 different models total. They'll hopefully start construction this summer. He also said they purchased a 7-acre parcel in front of Haven of Rest. We'll be developing that as well, and inquired about water availability for that. I told him we have an 8-inch main that could be extended to that parcel as well. Also had an inquiry from Housing Kitsap about water availability for a plat they're considering purchasing for a self-help home project. Try to say that real fast, 3 times. Like the ones they built in Kitsap County. I followed this up with a phone call last week, but haven't heard anything back. Eric Community Utilities proposal, as we've discussed previously, we've had some informal discussions with Eric Community Utilities to purchase their water system, which is adjacent to ours. After discussing this with Mr. Carey, we decided the best path to begin moving forward to this is to have the system appraised. However, finding somebody who actually does these kind of appraisals has been the problem. I contacted PUD number 1 as they've purchased more than 30 small systems in the past year. However, the person that did all that has left PUD number 1, and they referred me to Evergreen Rural Water, of which we're members. They said they would look into it and report back, but as of yet, I haven't heard anything. I followed it up with a phone call today and just got voicemail. I've also spoke with a couple of other purveyors, and they too referred me to Evergreen Rural Water. I called Friday and called again today and just keep getting voicemail, so it's still at square one. There's money available from the state to do acquisitions that combine small water systems, and I'm researching that. PRTPO draft interlocal agreement, the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization, of which we are members and Commissioner Scott is our representative, is restructuring. They have presented us with a draft interlocal agreement. Commissioner Scott has asked we put this on the agenda for review and discussion. A copy of the draft agreement is in your meeting packets, and Leanne just printed some other ones. Property purchase, we received the appraisal back, but it isn't anywhere near what the asking price was or what the seller told me their bottom line is. So now we have to enter into negotiations with the seller and see where it goes. I've had some discussions with the seller, and I'm convinced we can make this work one way or another. Excuse me. The decision was scheduled to be made on what gets funded April 24th, and if we are funded, we'll see the money in August. Meanwhile, we may have to front the purchase price once it's negotiated and be reimbursed from the grant through a waiver of retroactivity. I did receive a call from Kim Sellers, our RCO grant manager, after the project had been ranked, and she told me we scored at number 10 out of the 18 projects that they received, project applications they received. But at the time I talked to her, she didn't know the level of funding they would receive from the legislature, so she didn't know how many applications would be funded. She did feel that we would be, but I'm not banking on that until it's confirmed. Dock issue. As I reported earlier, during the January windstorm, we suffered some serious damage to the floating dock portion below the gangway. Some of the flotation is separated from the deck surface, and it appears some of the support beams are seriously damaged as well. I contacted Endurus. They sent out an adjuster to inspect the damage. After a lot of back and forth, Endurus has denied our claim, saying the dock has reached the end of its useful life. I find this ironic since in 2001 they replaced the entire dock, which at that time was 42 years old. This one is 18 years old. Meanwhile, Endurus' diver and engineer claim the entire dock needs to be replaced, not just the damaged system. We've hit a dead end with Endurus and engaged Foster Pepper to deal with them. I enclose a note from the attorney to Endurus notifying them of this in your meeting packet. They feel this is a bogus denial at best, but unless Endurus is willing to negotiate, we may be stuck with the cost of the entire repair until the matter is settled, perhaps in court. This happened in January, and Endurus has delayed dealing with it, so I've also asked the attorney to include lost moorage revenue as part of our claim, since we're going to lose most of boating season, which officially opened this past Saturday. That may become a negotiating point if we can get Endurus to the table. We have our own diver coming out May 13th to do an inspection and see exactly what condition the underside of the dock is actually in, and what, if anything, is damaged and needs to be replaced. I will forward their report on to the attorney as well as you when I receive it. I had a conference call with the attorneys on Thursday, and they cautioned that depending upon just how far we want to push this, we can incur as much in legal costs going to court as it'll cost to fix the dock. Where we left it is to see what our diver has to say next week when we have a clearer picture of exactly what condition the bottom side structure is in and decide where to go from there. No matter what, the southern section has to be replaced, whether we do it or Endurus does. Dock is built in 3 sections, each one 33 feet long, 12 feet wide. We had contacted Tim Zeck about doing the replacement work on the damaged section, but he says he's too busy to do it, wouldn't be able to get to it for another 3 months. We even offered to pay a premium if he would move us to the front of the line, but he said no. So I've gotten a bid from a company called Marine Floats to report the damaged section and for replacement of each of the other 2 sections just in case. Those bids are in your meeting packets. My recommendation is that we approve the proposal to replace the southern section. We can borrow the cost from the IDD fund if we need to, but I would fund it initially out of our cash on hand, and if we run short later in the year, then borrow from IDD. In the meantime, hopefully we can work this out with Endurus and not have to borrow anything. Marine Float said it would take about 6 weeks to do the project and has included a recommendation that we use a different type of float that will allow the dock to sit higher in the water, which will help mitigate future wave damage to both the floats as well as the dock's bottom side structure and metal hardware. I had also asked him for a price to retrofit the other 2 sections of the dock with those, assuming their bottom side structure doesn't need to be replaced. He got back to me today with a rough price on that, and to do them both would be about $38,000 just to replace the floats on the other 2 sections. Marine Floats comes highly recommended. It's on the MRSC Small Works roster and has done work for the Port of Bremerton, Port of Manchester, City of Bainbridge Island, and just did the new floats at the Port of Grapeview, which is, I guess they're going to cut the rimbit on the 15th. In the meantime, we've closed that section of the dock until the damage is repaired. Parking at the North Shore. We talked with Earl Iddings about cutting the trees around the perimeter of the property so we had enough room for drive-through parking. He asked if his company, Cascade Excavators, could submit a bid for the entire project, so I told him I'd take a look at it if they did. We had a previous bid from Cascade of $2,900 for the tree cutting and stump removal. Earl had previously offered to donate the tree cutting in exchange for the wood. Their bid was $2,061 cheaper than the previous bid from Zephyr's. Zephyr's bid was $71.62 for the grading, culverts, and rock, but not the tree cutting or stump removal. Cascade's bid was $5,100 for everything, with them keeping the wood from the trees. The permit had been approved and issued in Zephyr's name, not ours, as they were going to be the original contractor. The county changed the permit to Cascade with no problem. The only other cost I can see is about $250 for directional signage, establishing the ingress and egress pattern. This entire project should be finished before shrimp season opens. I went out there today and looked at it, and it looks like all they got to do is put the rock down.
Wow.
I originally guesstimated this project would cost around $7,500, so we're more than $2,000 under that figure. I found out this would have qualified for RCO money, but since we didn't decide to do it until after the grant cycle had closed, it wouldn't. Called the Kim Sellers at RCO to see if we could ask for a waiver of retroactivity and submit next year for reimbursement. Resulted in a negative answer, but at least we saved some money. Also met with Dave Smith from the county in response to my letter requesting a lower speed limit approaching the boat launch on the North Shore. With tow vehicles and trailer crossing the road there, coupled with the limited sight distances to the west, just makes good sense to slow traffic down. We're right there where it's all possible. Dave was very helpful, but hinted in a follow-up email they want to study some issues surrounding that. And if the county does lower the speed limit, we may have to pay for signage for that. He also doesn't see a need to lower the speed limit all year. We discussed doing so from May 1 through Labor Day, which is workable for us. Security issues. I haven't really had much time to research security issues since the last meeting, but have done some online research. I'm looking into the cost of what it will take to install some kind of high-resolution wireless remote camera system here at the park. There are systems available that will transmit images to cell phones from multiple cameras and store them for downloading if necessary for law enforcement documentation. Hoping to be able to set up about a half a dozen cameras for under $1,000. More on this as I learn more. There's a place in Tukwila called 25/7 Security I'd like to go visit. I have to pick up the signs for the boat launch in Auburn. They called today, said they were ready, so I thought it might be a good way to combine the trip. I've also asked Don to install sharps containers in all the restrooms here and at the kayak park. We've ordered these, but they haven't arrived yet. We're dealing with more discarded syringes than ever before, and I believe we need to take steps to attempt to protect both our staff from harm as well as the general public. We've also had a problem, as Travis mentioned, with people stealing the light fixtures from the bathrooms as well. We've replaced them and used one-way screws to install the replacements. You know, the kind where you can turn them in, you can't turn them back out. So hopefully that'll solve that problem. We were going to look into the blue light situation Commissioner Jackson had talked about, but after hearing what he had to say tonight, maybe we should just let that go. We've restricted the hours the restrooms are open in an attempt to minimize all this, but it's still a problem. 3D building acquisition, nothing new to report on this. However, a new co-working space called Vibe, which is what I envisioned us doing with that building, recently opened in Paulsbo. I was at that building for another function and got to speak with the owners and got a tour of the facility. They offered to give all of you a tour as well if you want to see this and answer any questions you may have about how the entire concept works. And I just read where a new one of these opened up in Bremerton last week. So, derelict vessels, and on the North Shore we have one on-again, off-again customer owed us for several months as well. He's one of these guys, always has run up a bill but paid us, only this time he didn't. Came in and gave us a series of post-dated checks, the first of which bounced, but he came in and paid cash and an additional $35 return check fee. His second check also bounced, but when Leanne called him, he ironically was at the bank making a big deposit. I talked to him, told him Leanne would meet him there with a deposit slip in 10 minutes. Take his cash for the amount he owed us, plus the bad check charge. He agreed, and she put his money in the bank.
And his boat's tied up like 25 feet from the dock.
Pacific Coast Congress of Harbor Masters and Port Directors. This is a group I was invited to join recently. It consists primarily of port directors and harbor masters from ports as far north as Alaska and as far south as California. I attended their recent meeting in Newport, Oregon, and came away with some valuable information about vendors as well as best practices. I also made some great contacts there that will be beneficial to us in the future. For example, one of the vendors has just come out with a new power and water stir pedestal for docks, of which we need to order 6 for the marine expansion projects. The ones he has are about $500 cheaper than what we had previously been considering and are state-of-the-art. That savings alone will pay for the cost of the membership, the conference, and the hotel, and still save us about $2,000. WPPA and other meeting schedules. The Association of Washington Business has a spring meeting in Spokane, May 8th and 9th. Commissioner Jackson and I are going for the 8th only. WPPA spring meeting, May 15th to 17th at the Davenport Hotel in Spokane. WPPA finance seminars, June 12th to 14th at Alderbrook, and the annual commissioner seminar, July 22nd to 24th at Suncadia. Executive Director Seminars, July 11th and 12th at Skamania, and the Environmental Seminar, September 26th and 27th at Campbell's Lodge in Chelan. We've made reservations for everyone for the spring meeting in Spokane, as well as the Finance Seminar at Alderbrook. We'll need commitments about attendance so we can finalize reservations for both of those. Totem pole issue, nothing new to report on that. Do you want me to go into old business here?
Sure.
Transient Mortgage Expansion Project, we're all but stopped on this until the dock is repaired. I previously submitted the paperwork to the Department of Commerce to get reimbursed for our expenses up to this point, which were slightly over $18,000, and we received that money 2 weeks ago. We had put this out to bid to qualified contractors on the MRSC Small Works roster the week before Enduris's engineer came back, saying the entire engineer's report came back saying the entire dock needed to be replaced. We do have some interest from contractors and have received 1 bid with 2 others interested as well. Also ordered, I had also ordered the power water stir pedestal, which I canceled in favor of the ones mentioned above. I'm thinking we could pre-wire and pre-plumb the sections of the new dock with the pedestals in place before the dock sections are fitted into place. That way all we would need to do is connect them together once the various sections were in place. This is the same principle as the Valdez oil refinery for the Alaskan pipeline, which was actually built in the port of Tacoma. It was then barged up there in the interconnections, and all the electrical and other piping were done once the modules are in place. However, with Enduris saying the dock's outlived its useful life, at this point we can't really move forward until this is resolved, unless we want to foot the bill and hope the lawyers could eventually force Enduris's hand to pay for it. It's on the agenda for discussion tonight. I did, however, order the pay station for the boat launch, and since it exceeds my spending authority, it's on the agenda for discussion and approval tonight. It's several weeks out for delivery. Sweetwater Park, not much new to report on this. Dr. Peterson is in the process of removing the debris from the property there, but some fallen trees blocking the exit route have slowed down the progress. We did have a report of some homeless people filtering back in there, but Dr. Peterson told me he's been up there several times the past couple of weeks, and that isn't the case. He's also going to see if he can borrow Jack Johnson's excavator to finish the work once the downed trees are cleared. I spoke with Mindy Harlow from Salmon Center on Thursday. She told me they got some money from the capital budget, may go ahead and purchase Dr. Peterson's property with it, which moves all this one step further ahead. Oyster House, as I reported to all of you when I got the news Sunday morning, the final state capital budget included $218,000 for the Oyster House, $160,000 for North Bay Historical Society. Trevor Justin from Gordon Thomas Honeywell emailed me after the session adjourned at midnight and let me know. I saw it when I woke up Sunday and immediately forwarded his email to all of you. Plus I called Judy at 7:30. The folks from Gordon Thomas Honeywell were here to discuss the session, so I don't have to say anything more than that, except that it wouldn't have happened without Representative Griffey running the point on this, with help from Representative McEwen and Senator Sheldon, and of course Brianna, Meg, and Trevor doing all the behind-the-scenes legwork necessary. Have a call into my contact at the Department of Commerce, which administers the capital budget, to see what we need to do to get started. There will be paperwork. Criminalization of marina rules, nothing new has happened on this. After the all ports meeting, I think if we press the issue in conjunction with the other ports, we may get somewhere. All ports meeting, the Port of Shelton offered to host our next Mason County ports meeting, which should have taken place last month. They said they wanted to wait till fall. The last Kitsap All Ports meeting was April 22nd, but nothing of substance took place, except several people besides us complaining about Honduras. That's my report.
Sorry. Thank you.
Get back to the,
Question?
I do have one question. When do we want to walk Sweetwater Park? Do we want to wait till the Peterson property is purchased and when the whole tract is together? I still get calls about people, one gentleman in particular, about dumping up there. And some people think that that whole property is ours. So I don't know when the port wants to just make a stand and say, okay, this is the port's property, this is what we're moving forward to with development of this park, and try to keep people out. I know
I'm still waiting to get the recorded deed back.
Okay, I guess that's my answer. So
Yeah.
So I would like,
I'm going to have to, I think, push that with the county, though.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go to our safe deposit box,
Okay.
get all the transfer paperwork, and just go down to the county. And
if we don't have a deed, we don't need to be up there. But I think once the properties are merged and everything up there, that's when the Salmon Center and the port needs to make a stand and say no more. So,
yeah, I agree. I wanted to fence it.
Yeah, we should.
I am more concerned about those kids on the other side of the fence at the elementary school. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I just see when you drive by there, if you drive by slow when you're in traffic, you see a lot of garbage and dumping. So,
Yeah.
that's all happened since the snow dropped the trees, and it's very
Yeah.
visible now, but that's all been back there. I mean,
Yeah.
since we walked it.
Yeah,
a
we
year
walked
ago.
it, what, a year and a
You
half
just couldn't
ago.
see it before. So I drive by there all the time. I've seen somebody with law enforcement, kind of right at the head there, maybe a year ago, but I've never seen anybody up there since then.
Well, Dr. Peterson, I talked to him Thursday or Friday, and he said he had just been up there and he didn't see any evidence of anything or
It doesn't
anybody.
look like anything's ongoing up there.
good.
Because I think what he's done is they've reduced that trailer and that shed and everything to just debris, so there's no place for anybody to stay there. I think that's, what's helped
good.
out. So,
One thing that, maybe this is, let's go into new business. If there's no questions under old business.
One correction here, Larry, the Haven of Rest is actually Haven
Haven
in
in Allyn.
Allyn.
oh, sorry.
Great people, by the way.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, Jameson's right.
I always thought it was called Haven of Rest. I don't know why.
Nope.
So ready to go into new business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the presentation by Gordon Thomas Howell. We're on to legal options for dealing with the damaged Allyn dock.
Well, we can sue Honduras, but like the lawyer said, it may cost as much to sue them as to fix it ourselves. But I think once we get the report back from our diver and know what the condition of the rest of the dock is, if the rest of the dock isn't in bad condition, I think we have a much stronger case for our claim. Because we can say, you say it's end of its useful life, we say you replaced it at 42, why won't you fix it at 18? Plus, their risk manager remember I brought him here, it was December 2017, him and I walked that dock, and he didn't have anything to say.
Mhm.
But, he inspected it and thought it was fine.
You have documentation of that, don't you?
I have documentation of him being here.
Yeah.
He never did issue any report. The whole thing was kind of informal in that I just want to know what you think. And he gave us a couple of things to fix, and we fixed them, but did nothing on the dock or the pier. I think there was some light fixtures in the gazebo that he didn't like the looks of, and a couple other things like that. It was all minor stuff, and we fixed it all. But ironically, we got a letter from Honduras today telling us how they're making money because they're tightening up the claims process. And I was going to scan it and send it to the lawyer, but I thought I don't need to run our legal costs up anymore. But anyway, I think once we have the report from the diver and know what the condition of the dock is, we're going to be in a lot better shape to make any kind of decision about it. But we're stuck right now with, we can't moor any boats or anything else because that southern section's coming apart. I mean, all the boards have come loose and everything else. And we get another bad storm, it might sink that thing. And we don't want to take the rest of it down with it because it's attached to it. So, but I really liked Marine Float's proposal about the higher flotation. It'll keep the dock about, I think he said 14 inches off the water, keep all the wood that high off the water, which, unless we got 14-inch waves, is going to keep the waves off the wood and protect the metal hardware. If you look at the metal hardware down here, it's all rusty. So anyway, either way, we need to get the southern section replaced no matter what happens, whether it's we're paying for it, Honduras is paying for it, or who's paying for it.
Do you think it would be worth, after the diver's here, to call a special meeting and lay it all out, all three options?
That's what
make
I'm
a decision
thinking.
there, then, when's the diver here?
Next Monday.
We're going to Spokane.
Yeah, but he's not going to have his report for a couple days
Okay,
anyway.
so when we get back from Spokane?
When we got back from Spokane.
Okay, that's good.
I think that's what we should do, because you're right, I mean, we run up so much in attorney's costs, and then
Yeah.
don't prevail, we have to pay for it anyways, and the attorney costs.
Right.
And really, if the new company that can replace the section, we can get that ordered right away regardless.
And then
Just
just
at least
have
do one
them,
of them.
if the rest of the dock's in good shape, just have them take the floats that are out and put the new floats in it. And they'll have to take up the decking. Something he pointed out, the decking, it's run north and south when it should be run east and west. Because the north and south with the wave like that pops the screws out.
Oh, yeah.
So on the new section, what they're going to do, they're going to use Trex on the top of it
Right.
with those fiberglass inserts like we have on the
Yeah.
finger pier,
Yep.
for
Great.
shading the fish or not shading the fish. So if they're going to do the other side, the other two sections of the dock, their price includes taking up the top of it. We go ahead and get the wiring and the plumbing in for the, the
Stanchions.
pedestals,
Yeah.
and putting Trex and the fiberglass down again. And that dock, it ought to be good for, at least another 20 years without having to do anything to it.
Are we gonna need an HPA permit?
I don't know. I need to check on that. I told him, you're gonna be responsible for all the permitting. And
Okay.
he was fine, and that was included in the price.
Okay.
I didn't know you had to have one for doing docks, did you? I mean, replacing stuff.
Even putting in floats,
Okay.
swim floats or, yep.
I didn't know that either.
That's
But
through
I just told him, I want
That's Fish and Wildlife.
I told him I want your price to include permits and everything else, so.
Well, it's interesting you said it goes like this, because a few years ago, we had a bad storm, and we had to get out there and pull a boat in, and on our hands and knees until the fire department came, but it was literally going just
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So anyway, I put the bids in your meeting packet from Marine Floats. There's one that's just for the southern section, one that's for the southern section in the middle, and then one for all three. So,
And the diver can give us a recommendation on
Yeah.
whether or not he thinks 1, 2, or all
Yeah.
3.
So I think maybe hold off any action on this until we get that.
Yeah.
I tried to get him out here sooner, but he said there's a title issue, and that's why they couldn't get out there any sooner. Because he wants to take pictures and stuff, so.
So do we want to table
that one,
the
yeah.
proposals as well? And then
Yeah, I
go on to
would.
discussion of Northwest parking equipment?
Yeah, Leanne printed that. I forgot to put it in the documents in your meeting packets, but it's about $15,000 for
I
that.
scanned it to
Oh, did you?
And that's
Oh.
part of the
Didn't realize you did.
you. Yeah.
the grant we got.
Yeah.
We'll pay for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
We
get
just need to
reimbursed
give you
for that.
permission to,
We'll get reimbursed for that. Hold on, let me see if I find it here.
It was earlier today.
Let me look at my inbox. That's where I ought to be looking for now.
Scan documents. I didn't email it.
No, I'm not finding it.
I didn't email it, so it's not going to be in your inbox. I scanned it.
Oh, okay. All right, well, hold on. It should be in my scan. Ah, here it is. I'll email it to all of you right now. Since this is a public meeting, can I email it to all 3 of you at once? Or do I have to?
no, I
do 3
think
separate
you
emails?
emailing it to us is fine. We
Yeah.
just can't reply.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
And
that's
I
fine.
don't know, that's a good question about, since we're in a meeting, could we? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think as long as we're not communicating between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
as long
We're in a
as
public
directors-
meeting, so we should be
And it's
covered.
being announced that we're gonna receive a document.
Yeah. There you go. Should be there
See who's
momentarily.
quickest.
Got it.
And like somebody got it.
I got it.
Just received it.
It's $12,042.42.
You need a motion to, or just direction to have you sign that?
Either one. Just, somebody can make a motion okaying me to sign it, that's fine.
I make a motion that we authorize Larry to purchase, pay for the Northwest parking equipment.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Motion carries.
That was for the amount of $12,042.42. At least that's what it says here.
Back to Roy
Yeah,
Whipple.
that's it.
And they can do the installation of that.
It was kind of a joint effort between them and Don, because, Don had to pour a slab out there for it, and, we had to run power out there to it. And power
Had to
out
cover
there
for
will be
it.
part of the proposal with the dock. And I talked to him about maybe looking at the solar option for that, to, in case we get delayed a whole lot further on the marina project, so we could still use it. But he said they can operate it with a battery, in a worst case scenario, that get a battery and a spare battery and put them in there and just use them,
Good. That'd be great.
until we can get power to it.
Mhm.
But I don't want to run power to it separately,
Sure.
just to incur cost. I mean, we could do it, and I think there's more than enough money in the grant to do it, especially based on the bid I got for the electrical.
Mhm.
But just the same, I don't see us incurring any costs we don't need to. Because, it comes out of our pocket first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Moving on to item E, discussion of interlocal agreement with Kitsap Transit for PRTPO, potential action.
Did you have a chance to take a look at this?
I did.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Just why is DOT getting out of it?
Well, PRTPO was the last regional transportation organization that they managed in Washington State. And it was just costing them too much. I think that was pretty much it. They didn't any longer want to operate it. And so this one was the last. And as you well know, I've been reporting on this. We've been going through trying to find somebody to do that. We tried Thurston County, we tried Pacific or Grace Harbor, Grace County event, and so, and Kitsap Transit is a member of PRTPO, and so they have everything in place to be the lead agency for it. Our fiscal manager, our fiscal responsible entity will be Jefferson County. Jefferson also is part of PRTPO, and they have the works to manage the money. So this interlocal agreement, and if you'll notice the first page, this was from Annette Nisi. She is the executive board chair, and she's from Jamestown, S'Klallam tribe. And it's kind of a cover letter. The cover letter explains how PRTPO got started, when it got started. We did have an ILA signed many, many years ago, and it hadn't been signed in years. So now that we have to change everything, that's why we went through this interlocal agreement, revised many things, took some things out, added a few things. And this interlocal agreement probably took about a month and a half, maybe 2 months to go through. Now we are working on the bylaws. And what we need tonight is just to agree to join the PRTPO and to sign this interlocal agreement. There was many ways to sign this interlocal agreement. You could just have Larry do it, or we could all sign it. I just thought it might be better if all of us sign it that way. If we need to have backup representatives, at least our names on it. You guys' names are on it. So there we go.
So I know that the city of Paulsbo was in this, and now they're not. Do you know why?
I don't know if they actually were always involved. They can be, but I rarely ever see them.
Okay.
It does say Paulsbo.
Paulsbo
Yeah.
under the distribution,
Yep.
but then when you go into the ILA, they're not listed as a participating city.
All of these are, matter of fact, if you'll see its distribution, that means all of these entities are welcome to join.
Okay.
And there's many who don't.
So they're eligible to be in.
Yeah.
but According to the ILA, they've chosen not to.
Yeah, case in point is like the Quillian Nation. You know, that would be a long travel time for them to come.
And
So,
Shelton's not in here. Are they eligible?
oh yeah, Shelton is, and Shelton does come. The city of Shelton comes.
Oh, there they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there. Yeah.
They participate quite a bit, and also Mason County does. The Board of Commissioners, Randy, he's designated.
Yeah, I see no reason not to sign it.
I agree.
Good.
So I would entertain a motion to sign the interlocal agreement for the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization.
I'll make that motion to sign on to the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
And thanks for being our representative for
Yeah.
the past 18 years.
It's been kind of, you learn a lot. This is really pretty complicated. It's not complicated, but it is an important entity, even though it doesn't seem like we do much. You know, we don't have too many projects, but we probably could be eligible if we got a little more active. A case in point is like Highway 300.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a project that we could probably get money for as a planning, even though it is a WashDOT, but you know, that's a project that we probably could start to do something if you wanted to. I'm not, you know, there's a lot more to it, but you know, stuff like that for planning and for sidewalks and stuff like that.
Great.
Okay.
Any other items for new business? Okay, public comment period. Jeff?
Jeff Carey. I like the things you answered earlier tonight. The only thing that came to mind that I had a question is, do you know how much, you know, like on the insurance that we have for the dock, how much we pay in a premium annually? Any feel?
Right about $16,000 total.
But is that related just to the dock? Or
No,
just-
that's everything.
Total premium.
That's our total premium. And they don't break it out for us as to what, they don't itemize it, because when I was doing the calculations for the water system,
Right.
for the rates, I had to call them and say what part of our premium is due and, you know, applies to this, and they had to figure it out and call me back. So,
The reason I was just inquiring about is, as to the issue is, you know, all the hassles you go through to try to, you know, over the years, we've always had to do different things, and certain things have been covered and certain things have not been covered on repairing the dock, and over the long haul, you know.
well, I'm of the same mind. I mean, we've been paying the premiums for it. Why
Right.
don't they fix it?
Right.
If I could say something, when I saw that report, when they showed the mussels and the aquatic growth,
Sure.
it's, okay, a mussel takes this long to grow, and another mussel on top of that mussel takes this long to grow. There should be a timeline associated with that document. There was nothing associated with that.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed that they didn't say, okay, Port of Allyn, you've messed up because this mussel took 6 months, this mussel took 6 months, this mussel on top of it.
Right.
Mussels just don't, they grow in clusters and they grow lengthwise.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed when I saw that also. So
I'm just, you know, as one taxpayer in the port, just saying, you know, obviously if you have insurance, it covers the bases, and I mean, that's great, but I mean, if it starts becoming more and more of a hassle, and I'm not talking about the liability issues, I'm talking now the issues of just repairs and things of that nature, you know, I don't have a problem if it's close, that, you know, we just don't pay that as a premium and move on, so that you guys, so there's not all this kind of, you know, circular things before you actually get to fixing things. Because it seems like you say, the dock's been busted since January. And, you know, it would seem like you're putting at risk, anyway, you're increasing your liability by having a busted dock, you know, out there all this time. So, you know, anyway, it's something you guys will have to figure out, but as one taxpayer, I'm not, I mean, I realize it might be a little bit more upfront cost, but the aggregate, if it comes out close, you know, personally, go for it and get it done.
I don't know if, to answer, I don't know if the port can do self-insured.
I understand. Just
Well,
all
there's-
I'm really
I
saying
don't
is,
think we want to be.
I don't think so
We don't
either.
have enough revenue
No.
for that.
But at the same time, I'd rather have an insurance company that explains why your claim is being denied, instead of taking photographs and saying, well, you got aquatic growth. Okay, we all know the biology of that, or we should know the biology of that. So give us a timeline.
right,
So do you scrape floats?
Yeah.
I don't know too many people on Hood Canal or Puget Sound that scrape their floats.
Yeah.
So,
no, we used to
I
crush them-
am
crush them with
researching
fish.
other insurance companies.
yeah, I'm sorry, Joe, I'm gonna ask,
No problem. But
Director,
anyway, that's
are there
my
any?
gist of my point.
Yeah, there's a couple.
thank you.
I sent an email to every port in the state and just said, you know, if you're with Honduras, are you happy or not? Have, you know, had any negative experience? If you're not with Honduras, who are you with and are you happy with them? And I did get some responses.
Did you get some other names of?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I got two others is all though.
Okay.
So,
Is there, I hate to add any work to you, but is there any way that you can provide to us the amount of premiums that we paid out compared to what Honduras has paid out over the last?
Yeah, well, you know, in the 4 years I've been here, they've paid a $4,000 claim to a boat owner. I guess it was $5,000. And I can't think of any other claims that they've paid. Oh, no, that's not true. They paid $3,800 for that electrical fire.
What about the property line?
They didn't pay that.
Oh, they didn't.
They said they were going to, and then they
They
pulled
never
back
did.
out.
Yeah, and they fired a guy that told me that.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
Maybe, does the contract spell out exactly what they cover?
All of our facilities,
That's too big.
yeah. But Honduras insures, they insure 80% of the ports in the state.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other public comment?
I have one question about.
Can you come up to, thanks, Kay.
I had a question about Sweetwater Park, because over the years, I've heard that there was a lot of pollution up there. Have you ever gotten anything that finally says that it's all clear?
What kind of pollution? One of the things,
Well, wasn't there a gas station up there at one time?
those tanks were removed.
Were removed?
Yes.
Okay.
They said
had
that
not heard that.
the only issue that was in the past was there were, I think, arsenic levels,
Oh,
but those
yeah,
were
that
levels
too.
that were pretty standard.
And they're naturally occurring.
Yeah, naturally occur,
Yeah.
but they weren't, they weren't super high either, but they had a grant that took those out, matter of fact. I can't remember what year,
Yeah,
but.
it's about 10 years ago now,
Yeah.
though.
Well, I know that when, at the Salmon Center, Mendy, because when she started there, they redid it and discovered there was still something up there. So-
There's monitoring wells there.
Are there?
Yeah, and
I've never walked up there.
and all they're monitoring now is the arsenic levels. And where it's the worst is where the parking lot's going to be.
Oh.
So it'll be paved over.
Oh, okay.
So,
I've just heard all this, people complaining about it, and just didn't know myself whether everything was clear up there or not. Don't want the kids playing up there if it isn't.
No.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kay. Any other public comment?
I have a thing you heard.
Good to the order?
Yeah, you heard that Eric Johnson is now the executive
Isn't
director.
that something?
Yeah, he gave me a
Jeez.
call letting me know that he was,
Good for him.
yeah.
yeah,
Which
he
is sad
told
for
me
us,
that,
but
It
good for
is,
him.
yeah.
he told me that he was one of the finalists, one of the 2 finalists.
Mhm.
He told me that, I don't know, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then I just saw where they chose him, because the other guy withdrew his name.
Oh, he did?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that's
Guy
good for
from
him.
Spokane.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I know, he'll
Yeah.
be really
The
good for
question
him.
is, who's going to
I
take
know,
over his
that's-
job?
That's scary,
We're gonna
because
bring
he's,
Ginger Eagle back.
that would be great.
I know.
What taker?
And somebody was saying, possibly James Thompson, but I'm not sure he's the right guy for that.
A lot different than Eric.
And,
Eric was the right guy for that job.
Yeah, he was.
you know who I think would be a good guy is Mark Wilson from Port of Kalama.
He would be incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if he's thinking about it or not, but I think he would just be excellent.
Yeah, I would agree.
But that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I agree with you on that one. But anyway,
Anything else for good of the order?
nope. Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.